115. Masechta Shabbos. Kol Kisvei HaKodesh, any sefer, Kagon Torah, Nevi'im, Uksivim, Tanakh. Matzilan Osom Epnei Adleika. If there's a fire, you can carry them out, not directly into the Rishus HaRabim. Rashi says to a mavui she'enim afulish, to a alleyway that's closed off on three sides. So what we're being permitting is like a tircha ba'alma. There's no eruv to this mavui. To carry in this mavui midrabanon, you need either a lechi or a koreh, like a beam or a little piece of wood at the entrance of the mavui to be able to carry there, midrabanon. So the Rabbanon waived this to save Kisvei HaKodesh. Bein shekorin behem, bein she'ein korin behem. Whether you read them, for example, Nevi'im, we read them as a haftorah, but Ksuvim we don't read. And even though they don't read them publicly, even a Yochid is not allowed to read them, because in Shabbos they would darshan in the morning to the Balabatim, because they would be busy during the week, and they would teach them Hilchos Isser V'Heter, and they wanted to discourage reading Ksuvim at that time, so they didn't read it. Either one person says either the Yochid didn't read it or public didn't read it. Either way, whether these form are read or not, you could save them. And Afal Pisha Ksuvim B'chol Lashon, and they could be written in any language. Tu'unin Gniza. And you can't just put them when they're torn up, you have to put them into shemus. Like we said, the Ksuvim were not read because of this issue of Bittul Beis HaMidrash. So the Gemara says, Itmar, Hayu Ksuvim Targum B'chol Lashon. Let's say it was translated into Aramaic or any other language. Rav Huna Omar, Ein Matzil Osom B'nei Adleika. We don't say that. Rav Chizdam Amar Matzil Osom B'nei Adleika. Now, Ali b'nei Mandomer Nitnu Likros B'hen, according to the Mandomer that says that you can read Kisvei HaKodesh in any language, those Mandomer, everybody, there's no argument you could save them. According to the Mandomer, that Rabbi Gamliel, who held that you did not read them unless they were written in Greek. Greek was a better language, but if you read them in a different language, you couldn't read them. Then Ravuna Amar Ein Matzilin Daloninu Likros Behem. Ravuna says you don't save them because we weren't allowed to read them anyways. Because it says you do save them because otherwise it's a degradation of Kisvei HaKodesh. So the Gemara asks from our Mishnah, time, call Kisvei HaKodesh, Matzil Osom B'nei Adleika, Bein shekorin behem, bein she'ein korin behem, Aval B'shek Ksuvim B'chol Lashon. My love must be shekorin behem Nevi'im, she'ein korin behem Ksuvim. And Aval B'shek Ksuvim B'chol Lashon, even though they're written in any language. Delon Nitnu Likros Behem, and therefore we've said, according to Mandomer, we would not read them, Uktari Matzilin. And yet, our Mishnah said you do say them. So Tiyuf to Ravuna. So it's a Kashan Ravuna. Armelcha Ravuna v'Tizbara, is that correct? Ema Sefer to Unin Gniza. If it didn't have kedusha, why would it require putting into shemus? Hashtat Tzuli Matzilina on Gniza Maboy. If you can't save it, why would you need Gniza? Ela Ravuna Matarza Tamei, Rachiz Matarza Tamei. They both give reasons according to their own smarts. Ravuna Matarza Tamei, Bein shekorin behem Nevi'im. Nevi'im are read in Haftorah. Uvein she'ein korin behem Ksuvim. Now, B'medvar Mamurim, sheksuvim b'loshen hakodesh. That's as long as they're written in Hebrew. Then you could save them. But if they're written in Greek or other languages, you could not save them. But it still requires gniza because there is kedusha there because it's kisvei kodesh. And Rav Chisda metarz l'tamei. Bein shekor behem neviim, ubein shenkor behem ksuvim. Aval pi shekor choloshen nami matzilin. You still save it, even though in general you don't read ksuvim. Achi kama umekek shelahen. If they go bad, they're torn and they have some kind of rotten dust. Those require geniza. So we ask another kasha, Meisvei, Hayuksuvim Targum. Let's say the ksuvim were written in Aramaic, Choloshan, or any other language. Matzila no so that they had leika. You do save them. It's again a kasha to you to Ravuna. Arlacha Ravuna, Hai Tana Savanit Nilikros Bahem. This Tana held that you read ksuvim. Toshma Hayuksuvim giftis, if it was translated into Egyptian. Modis into Mead, Ivris, which is Old Hebrew, before Ksav Ashuri, Ilmis, Ivonis, Greek, Avol Pishlo Nitna Likros Bahen, even though there was no permission to read them, Atzilos of Nad Leika. You say them. You have to Ravuna. Again, it's a Kasha Ravuna. Armelcha Ravuna Tanoi. I have a time to rely on. This is a Machlokas Tanoi, Titania. Hayuksuvim, Targum Cholasham. These forms were written in Aramaic or any other language. Matzil no so they had leika. You can save them from a fire. Rabbi Yossi Omer ein matzil so they had leika. You don't save. On Rabbi Yossi, Ma'aseh ba'Abba Chalafta. The story with Abba Chalafta. Shohalach Eitzel Rabban Gamliel beribi l'Tveria. Rabbi Gamliel, who was the Rabbi Gamliel of Yavne, went to Tveria. He was sitting on the table of Yochanan, Sefer Iyuv Targum, and there was a Sefer Iyuv with translation in Aramaic, and he was reading it. Amar lo Zachran Ibram Gamliel Avi Avicha, and he told Rabbi Gamliel, "I remember your grandfather, Rabbi Gamliel, because Rabbi Gamliel had a son, Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Shimon had him, Rabbi Gamliel. So the Rabbi Gamliel Azake." I remember your grandfather, Shai Oimed al Gav Mala Bahar Abayis. It was still the base of Mikdash was around, and there were steps leading up to a high place. They viewed fun of Sefer Iyuv Targum, and they brought him a Sefer Iyuv translated to Targum. V'omer lebanoi, and he told the builders, Shakeu tachas anidbak, you should bury it, and put cement on it. And he commanded that it be buried. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, a reva shel tit kafula. It wasn't cement. It was like some kind of bowl of clay. I'm a Rabbi. Shtei tshuvas b'dama. I'll tell you that really what didn't happen like this. There was no tit in the Har HaBayis. It was a material that was not considered worthy of the Har HaBayis. We don't destroy Kisvei Kodesh actively. You put them somewhere, and they go bad on their own. So Mantanoi, Ile Matanakam Rabbi Yossi, are you going to tell me that the first Tana is the one that's arguing to Rabbi Yossi? Maybe their argument is something simply. Whether you could read it or not read it. And that was the machlokas between Rav and Rav Chisda. So rather, the Gemara says, Al Rabbi Yossi v'Tana the gift is. They're arguing regarding if it was written in Egyptian. The one Tana says that since we don't read it because they're not written in Hebrew, we would not read from him. That you still save Sforim like that. And Rabbi Yossi says you don't save them. Let's continue. Ton Rabbanon, Abrachos Vakmein. People would write like a primer for blessings. Shmona Esrei, like a siddur. Vakmein, amulets. Even though there are names of Hashem there, and there are many discussions of Torah subject matter, they're not considered Kisvei HaKodesh. You don't save them from a fire. You let them burn. Now, Shulchan Aruch says, Bizman Hazeh, where we have permission to write Torah Shebal Peh, you save everything. Even the brachos that Chachamim were misakin, like in the siddur, we would also save them from a fire. And some say amulets, we don't save. The Rashba says. And some say since we permit saving siddurim, we save amulets as well. Because there were opinions that held that you have to burn, you don't save them from a fire. People who write them, it's like you wrote, it's like you're burning up a Torah, because eventually these things might have to be left to be burned. There was a person in Sidon in Lebanon who wrote these kinds of things. They told Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Yishmael went to check him. When he was walking up the ladder, the guy who was writing it felt that Rabbi Yishmael was coming. He threw the siddur that he was working on into a pail of water. That was worse than the fact that you were writing it, because you destroyed it via dye, in which we said you're not supposed to. You're supposed to put it away and let it rot on their own. You don't have reshus to get rid of it via dye, because it's got Shem Hashem. The Reish Galusa asked the following question from Rabbi Baravuna. Let's say they were written in certain dyes, which you're not allowed to write a Sefer Torah with, but you wrote it in Hebrew. You want to know, do you save such svarim? So we can ask the question according to both Manda Omer. Those that say that you save, those that say you don't save regular svarim. When do we say you don't save? That's like we said, if they're translated into Aramaic or English, you wouldn't say that. Here, even though it's written with dyes that or ink that you would normally not write a Sefer Torah, since it's written in Hebrew, maybe you do say, O Dilma, even according to Mandor that says you save Kisvei HaKodesh, but that's if you wrote a Sefer with regular ink that is permanent. But these inks are not permanent. Maybe we'd not save them. He held that you don't save them. Ravuna says you do save them. Tanya. Listen, if you have that Masar, then it's okay. Shulchan Aruch says, like the Maskana, Sifrei Kodesh Aksuim Shalo Bidyo, Matil no sort of day Blaka. You do save them. On Ravashi, my Tanya, what is this parisa that you quoted? On Ravashi Kidatanya, Ein Bein Sform the Megillah. What's the difference between a Sefer and a Megillah? A Sefer to study with was written in any language. Megillah that you have to read, like Megillah Esther, It has to be written on parchment. It has to be written ksav ashuri. It has to be written with ink that doesn't dissolve. Boim Ravuna bar Chalom bar Chaluv Rav Nachman. Sefer Torah she'ein bo l'lakech 85 osiyos. You go in Parshas Vahi bin Saron, matzil no som le'adleka or ein matzil. So we are used to saying that we have chamisha chumshei Torah, but the truth is there's machlokas tanoim regarding that. Some say there are 7, meaning Sefer Bamidbar really are 3 svarim. You have Sefer Bamidbar until the backwards nun of Vahi bin Saron and Parshas Baloscha. Then you have this Parsha of Vahi bin Saron, which is its own Sefer. And then from the second backwards nun to the end of Sefer Bamidbar is another Sefer. So really Sefer Bamidbar is 3 svarim. Therefore, if you count how many letters there are in Vahi bin Saron, it's 85. So the Gemara from there deduces that a minimum of a Sefer to save on Shabbos has to have at least 85 letters. Let's say you have an old Sefer Torah and it's been worn out, but you can count 85 letters, then such a Sefer you could save. Now that's a question. Can you save it or not? Omer lo, what are you asking me about a regular Tipolocha, Parshas Vahi bin Saron Gufa? Why don't we say, what if you have, somebody wrote Vahi bin Saron on its own, in its own Megillah, and it's missing 1 letter. It's 84 instead of 85 letters. Why don't you ask that? That's not a shayla. The given the Ispeas Koros, since their names of Hashem there, Afa got the less Beishmonim v'chamesh Osios. So even if they're less than 25 matzilim, Hikom Aboile, my question is, Sefer Torah she'ein bo l'lake. You have a Sefer Torah that you cannot count 85 letters. My. Omerle ein matzilim. And of course, he must be referring to a case where there's no Shem Hashem's. So he said ein matzilim. So Eitz Valaskir Akasha, Targum, Sheksovo Mikra. Let's say you have a word in the Torah that's supposed to be written in Aramaic. You wrote it in Hebrew, or vice versa. Mikra, a normal Hebrew word that you wrote in Aramaic. Or Ksav Ivris, you use the old Hebrew, the old, before Ksav Ashuri. Matzilim b'nei adleika. It says you save it b'nei adleika. Ve'ein tzarich lomar targum shebe'ezra b'shebe'niyel b'shebe'torah. And certainly, you save Aramaic, that Sefer Ezra and Daniel is full of it, and any Aramaic that's written in the Torah. The Gemara wants to know Targum Shabbatorah Maini. What Targum? So in Parshas Vayetze, it says that Lavan and Yaakov made a bris at a place called Yigar Sadusa, which is an Aramaic word, and that's the only example of an Aramaic word in the Torah. And L'chura, here it doesn't give us some kind of minimum that there has to be 85 letters. So when it says Kitani Hashnim, no, we're talking about there were 84 letters, and you wrote this letter, the 85th letter, in it properly, either Aramaic and Hebrew or Hebrew and Aramaic. So Iboilu, Hayu Hani Shmonim Chamesh Osios, these 85 letters, Mechunasos or Mefuzars? Do they have to be all in one place, or are you scattered throughout the Torah? Rav Huna Amar has to be Mechunasos, has to be in one place. Rav Chizda Amar Filu Mefuzaros, scattered. And as long as you have 85 letters, you save that safely. Meisvei, Sefer Torah Shabbalah, you have a Torah that's old. If you have a place where it has 85 letters, could go in parts of Vayi bin Saron Matzilim, which seems to imply anywhere, even if they're spread out. And right, Tiyuf to Ravuna, Tirgum Rav Chizda Ravuna B'Tevos. That means as long as you have full words, they could be separated. But just letters separated, even according to Rav Chizda, wouldn't work. Okay. We'll start the new sugya tomorrow night. Tonight we're learning 8 o'clock